Happy New Year, folks. Welcome in. This is my first video of 2025, and I thought I would try to come in with a bang, although I'm not sure how it's going to work out. If you are a subscriber or member or viewer of my YouTube channel, then you maybe looked at the community section and saw my message over there to you, the viewer, or the shorts videos and saw the same message there but in video form. And I do mean all of that from the bottom of my heart. So I was with the vision of this video being 3 parts. Actually 4 parts, this being the introduction. And yes, I'm speaking in adverb, verb, adjective, pronoun for the ease of the communication. So in this introduction, I'm looking at the video in 3 parts: a PARSE section, a psychology section, and then a correct sentence structure section, with a little syntax thrown in there. But I really felt the strong volition to do something to do with PARSE, because PARSE is the backbone of correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar. I can usually catch almost anyone lacking when I ask someone, is this word tangible or non-tangible contract? And then they give me the answer, and then I say, well, how do you know that? And then they will most likely say, well, it's because I feel like it's this. No. You have to look it up. You have to put the work in. You have to invest the now space using an etymology dictionary and look up these word particles and get them ingrained, imprinted in your psyche so that you can call them up by memory later, so that you don't have to look it up anymore. But whoever you're contracting with, if it's in a under duress situation, they have to look it up because they're caught lacking. Don't you be caught lacking. It's better that they be caught lacking in that type of scenario. So this is the beginning of a new year according to certain calendars, the one of which most people use in this day and age. And what happens when January 1st rolls around of a new year? People come up with resolutions, resolutions, no solutions. Because on the surface, if you take the word resolution and you parse it, RE means no, and then you have solute, solvent, and then you have ION, which is contract. So either you have no contract with a liquid, if you're into science and things like that, or you have no contract with solving a problem or steadfastness. But we're going to, I bet most folks out there don't know what that word means. I'll bet. I'll wager. No one's ever really looked it up. Well, we're going to remedy that in this video, along with giving some reasons why most people are not able to keep their New Year's resolutions, and some ideas for ones that you might work towards. Rather than using the word resolution, we will produce different words, more powerful words that are positive performance and may be used as facts in the wonderful grammar technology known as correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, a mathematical interface on grammar brought to the public in 1988 by the late DAVID-WYNN Miller. Honor and grace to that man. Thank you very much, David. When we look up the word resolution, let's look it up. Let's do a little change of pace and look it up on Wiktionary. Resolution. Recorded since 1412 as Middle English resolution, dissolution, which again means the same thing. No solution. A loosening, solution. Resolvo, loosen, or not to loosen, because RE means no. So let's look. Look at this. This is what we would call definitions. How many do we have here? 15. 15 different meanings for one word, folks. This is a great segue into the magic or wonderful properties of correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, in that we don't have definitions for words in correct sentence structure. We have finite means. Finite, meaning there's a limit to it, and mean, which means meaning. So if you have a cup, think of the word as a cup. You fill it up to the top with one liquid, and that's it. One word, one meaning, that's it. In the fiction, we have definitions. DE, which means no. Finite, which again means limit. And an ION means contract, so no finite limit. That's why you have 15 meanings for one word, which can be used in a very malicious manner, especially via the legal system. Well, first of all, I think most people would think that it means this: a firm decision or an official decision. Now that can be used for New Year's resolutions, or it can be, you know, a Senate committee reaches a resolution, that type of thing. But let's get to the bare bones of the matter here. So you have RE plus solvo. What's RE? Backwards. Negative condition of state means no. Solvo. In and of itself, soluo has a particle negation in it, se, and an untie. So literally, resolution means no tying contract. And here we go to the old standby online etymology dictionary. Resolution, noun, which means if you're looking at tangibility or non-tangibility, a little syntaxing thrown in here as well. If you see the noun symbol here, the N, which stands for noun, that's a clue that it could be tangible. Doesn't mean that it is, but it's a very strong indicator of tangibility. So resolution, 14th century, a breaking of or reducing into parts, process of breaking up, dissolution. So, wow, isn't that crazy? Totally different than what the New Year's resolution meaning would be. It's sort of the opposite of that, isn't it? So it's a noun of action from past participle stem of resolver to loosen. See, resolve. So we have 1540s, which comes here. So we're not really much concerned about what comes after. We're looking for the earliest nativity root meaning of a word most times. So that would be resolve. No solving, right? Melt, dissolve, reduce to liquid, separate into component parts, alter, modify. Anybody? By application of physical processes, 1400s. Okay, so we're on the right track here. So you have back, RE, we already went over that. That means no. And then we have solvere, to loosen, untie, from Proto-Indo-European, SEHU, lu, to loosen, divide, cut apart. Idiom, form of speech peculiar to a people or place, phrase or expression peculiar to the language. This is from pi swed hyphen yo hyphen suffix form of root s, pronoun of the third person reflexive, speaker's social group, one's own, Lord, created from himself, he, she, it, to a custom, get a custom companion. So we're getting two different meanings here for this last part, the solver part. Because if you remember, see, we're looking at this right here. They're saying that this comes from idiom. But you go back here, and it says it's coming from this, which means away, plus untie, set free, separate. This goes into a little more detail because when you look up here, it gives some different choices. But really, it's just like a... See, when I see something like this type of thing for CIO, SIO, TJO, when it says things like this, extension or cognate, it just basically means contract, folks. Just like ION and things like that. So we're getting a couple conflicting things here, but if we go down to basics, basically say that resolution does not mean what we think it means, going by the earliest nativity root meanings of the word. And even back then, there's a little confusion there. So you would go to the earliest thing, which Old English would be the thing to go to as far as this goes, if not the Proto-Indo-European. So this is Proto-Indo-European, so I would go with that idiom, which would be basically a contract word, rather than the particle negation listed in the other one, because Proto-Indo-European predates, comes before Old English. So basically, resolution means no loosening contract. That's what your New Year's resolution is. It means you're making a contract that cannot be loosened, cannot be divided, cannot be cut apart. But guess what always happens? You go to the gym for the first month, all gung-ho with everybody else, and then the crowd thins out, and suddenly the contract is loosened and cut and divided apart, and you're back to the same old you were doing in 2024. So, how can we work on that? How can we fix that? Do we have a solution for that problem? Stay tuned, folks. And now, folks, I'm going to discuss the psychology, the possible psychology behind why most people cannot stick or adhere to a New Year's resolution. And I'm going to use some material from G.I. Gurdjieff's Fourth Way. If you caught last month's For the Quantum Grammar Shoot podcast where I introduced Gurdjieff into the psychological curriculum, you will have had your introduction there. This is not necessarily the second Gurdjieff video. It's just using parts of his teaching to illustrate possibilities, actually probabilities, as to why everyday men and women cannot seem to stick to a New Year's resolution. And it has to do with the theory that Gurdjieff promulgated, that mankind is born into this world with no, basically, rudder, and has no mastery of themselves. And as time goes on, They're programmed, and different personalities appear in them depending upon whether something makes them feel good or something makes them feel bad. So long story short, most men and women, 99% in the world, are like pinballs in a pinball machine. They are totally controlled and directed by external influences, like a pinball inside a pinball machine. They cannot control where they're going. Something happens, boom, they go this way. Something happens, boom, they go that way. It's like that. And this is based on a theory of multiple, what nowadays you would call multiple personalities. But back then, Gurdjieff called it the I's, as in the letter I. Like the goal of the fourth way in enlightenment in that sense is to develop one single I, the master, the absolute. And then you can navigate your way through the now space without being influenced or controlled by external events. It doesn't matter what someone says to you. It doesn't matter what's happening over there. You keep going on your course. You're the director, you're the master, the captain, the navigator. But according to Gurdjieff, none of us are born with that. That has to be developed. And so I'm going to read to you from this little book right here, a little section. And while I do that, you may contemplate it as you look at a rare photograph of the great teacher Georges Ivanovich Gurdjieff. Very often, almost at every talk, Gurdjieff returned to the absence of unity in man. One of man's important mistakes, he said, one which must be remembered, is his illusion in regard to his I. Man, such as we know him, the man-machine, the man who cannot do, and with whom and through whom everything happens, cannot have a permanent and single I. His I changes as quickly as his thoughts, feelings, and moods, and he makes a profound mistake in considering himself always one and the same person. In reality, he is always a different person, not the one he was a moment ago. Man has no permanent and unchangeable I. Every thought, every mood, every desire, every sensation says I. And in each case, it seems to be taken for granted that this I belongs to the whole man, and that a thought, a desire, or an aversion is expressed by this whole. In actual fact, there is no foundation whatever for this assumption. Man's every thought and desire appears and lives quite separately and independently of the whole, and the whole never expresses itself, for the simple reason that it exists, as such, only physically as a thing, and in the abstract as a concept. Man has no individual I, but there are instead hundreds and thousands of separate small I's, very often entirely unknown to one another, never coming into contact, or, on the contrary, hostile to each other, mutually exclusive and incompatible. Each minute, each moment, man is saying or thinking, I. And each time his I is different. Just now it has a thought. Now it is a desire. Now a sensation. Now another thought. And so on, endlessly. Man is a plurality. Man's name is Legion. The alternation of I's, their continual obvious struggle for supremacy, is controlled by accidental external influences. Warmth, sunshine, fine weather immediately call up a whole group of I's. Cold, fog, rain call up another group of I's, other associations, other feelings, other actions. There is nothing in man able to control this change of I's, chiefly because man does not notice or know of it. He lives always in the last I. Some I's, of course, are stronger than others. but it is not their own conscious strength. They have been created by the strength of accidents or mechanical external stimuli. Education, imitation, reading, the hypnotism of religion, caste, and traditions, or the glamour of new slogans, create very strong I's in a man's personality, which dominate a whole series of other weaker I's. But their strength is the strength of the roles in the centers, and all I's making up a man's personality have the same origin as these roles. They are the results of external influences, and both are set in motion and controlled by fresh external influences. Man has no individuality. He has no single big I. Man is divided into a multiplicity of small I's, and each separate small I is able to call itself by the name of the whole, to act in the name of the whole, to agree or disagree, to give promises, to make decisions with which another I or the whole will have to deal. This explains why people so often make decisions, i.e. resolutions, and so seldom carry them out. A man decides to get up early beginning the following day. One I or group of I's decide this, but getting up in the business of another I who entirely disagrees with the decision and may even know absolutely nothing about it. Of course, the man will again go on sleeping in the morning, and in the evening he will again decide to get up early. In some cases, this may assume very unpleasant consequences for a man. A small accidental I may promise something, not to itself, but to someone else at a certain moment simply out of vanity or for amusement. Then it disappears, but the man, that is the whole combination of other I's, who are quite innocent of this, may have to pay for it all of his life. It is the tragedy of the human being that any small I has the right to sign checks and promissory notes, and the man, that is the whole, has to meet them. People's whole lives often consist of paying off the promissory notes of small, accidental I's. Eastern teachings contain various allegorical pictures which endeavor to portray the nature of man's being from this point of view. Now, folks, please pay attention here. This is very important. Thus, in one teaching, man is compared to a house in which there is a multitude of servants, but no master and no steward. The servants have all forgotten their duties. No one wants to do what he ought. Everyone tries to be master, if only for a moment, and in this kind of disorder the house is threatened with grave danger. The only chance of salvation is for a group of the more sensible servants to meet together and elect a temporary steward, that is, a deputy steward. This deputy steward can then put the other servants in their places and make each do his own work. The cook in the kitchen, the coachman in the stables, the gardener in the garden, and so on. In this way, the house can be gotten ready for the arrival of the real steward, who will, in his turn, prepare it for the arrival of the master. The comparison of a man to a house awaiting the arrival of the master is frequently met with in Eastern teachings which have preserved traces of ancient knowledge. And as we know, the subject appears under various forms in many of the parables in the Gospels. But even the clearest understanding of his possibilities will not bring man any nearer to their realization. In order to realize these possibilities, he must have a very strong desire for liberation and be willing to sacrifice everything, to risk everything, for the sake of this liberation. So there you go. There's one possible, probable answer as to why folks can't seem to stick with their choices on New Year's Day. When they make a choice to do this, that, or the third, well, it depends upon which personality was doing that, because there is no cohesive whole to those personalities. Maybe you made the resolution to go to the gym every morning at 9 o'clock, and then you get up one morning at 8 o'clock, and it snowed, and so now you have to shovel the sidewalks and put ice down, and then you slip and fall, and then some other catastrophe happens, and you decide, well, maybe I'll just hit the gym tomorrow. There you go. There's one example among a magnitude of examples. So this word resolution, this is the issue. I think that folks would find it easier, or actually more beneficial, if they want to go down the path of self-development and learning correct grammar, to get rid of these words if they're going to use correct grammar and instead use positive performance words. And that's what I'm going to be talking about next. Stay tuned. Congratulations if you've made it this far in this video series. Now you could be viewing this section as a video unto itself, or you may be viewing it as the third part of a long-form video, but whichever the case may be, welcome. Just to recap, in the first section of this series, I talked about the parse of the word resolution. I showed and gave closure to how there is at least one, if not possibly two, particles of negation in that word, why it's no contract, and why no one can really seem to hold to or adhere to a resolution. And in that video I also said to stay tuned for some positive performance, potent, powerful words that you may use in your correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, document, contract, postal vessel, court, venues as facts, because we don't use particles of negation in our facts as a general rule. This is the video where I'm going to share those with you. And I'm also going to share a few pointers on maybe something you can use for the new year, goals of performance to work towards, perhaps. Positive performance, that is. Okay, then in the second video, I went into detail on the psychology of why 99% of the folks on planet Earth can't seem to hold or adhere to their New Year's resolution, and they end up breaking it. And that had to do with Gurdjieff and the fourth way and what he calls the many I's, meaning the letter I, meaning in today's vernacular maybe personalities or moods, how 1 minute an individual is in a good mood and in the next minute they're in a terrible mood, they're angry or acting like an idiot or extremely sad. It all has to do with the fact that they are controlled entirely by external circumstances. They have no control over themselves, no self-control whatsoever. They're like a pinball inside a pinball machine being slapped around by external stimuli. And in the fourth way, the goal is to bring home the master, bring home the absolute I. And in correct sentence structure, this could be likened to 1 and 1 is 1. Instead of having multiple meanings for a word, or multiple moods, or multiple personalities, or multiple I's, you have one singular I with a singular volition, a singular aim. That's the goal. But 99% of mankind, humankind, whatever you want to call it, does not possess this. There's a very small percentage of folks who do. Just like there's a very small percentage of folks who actually have 100% closure on this grammar. The 1% of the 1% of the 1%. So again, this is the third part And in this part, I'm going to gift to you some positive performance words and their finite means that you can perhaps use in your own construct, and then also some suggestions for aims or goals of behavior for 2025. Thanks for joining me. Let's get started. The first positive performance term I will offer to you, i.e. tender to you, would be the word commitment. And the finite mean for commitment that I give it in my dictionary is, for the commitment of this finite mean is with this claim of the contract, with the duty of the transmission, broadcast, and of the performance, with the messages, terms, and with the conditions of the contract, with these fate writ conveyances by these contract parties. So in other words, in my construct, if there's to be a commitment, then there must also be a fate writ volition claim involved, where everyone makes their volition very, very clear. And so I'll just read that backwards real quick. For these contract parties of these fate writ conveyances are with the contract of the conditions, terms, and of the messages, with the performance, broadcast, and with the transmission of the duty, with the contract of this claim, with this finite mean by the commitment. So that's one you can use with others, because as you can see, the particle com is in there, or co, which means together. Another one you can use is for the covenant of this finite mean is with this claim of a pledge and honor claim with the terms of a contract with the certification by the contract parties. And then backwards, that would be for the contract parties of the certification are with a contract of the terms with a pledge and honor claim of this claim with this finite mean by the covenant. So that's a little different than a commitment. It's it's more specific, perhaps, but I'll leave it to you as to how you differentiate the two. This is all part of correct sentence structure studies, and I'll leave you to it. The next term I offer to you is oath. For the oath of this finite mean is with this claim of the commitment, with the facts of the statement, with the state of the mind, with the claim of the vessel, state, person, with this conveyance of the facts, with the certification by the contract party. And then backwards, for the contract party of the certification is with the facts of this conveyance, with the vessel, state, person of the claim, with the mind of the state, with the statement of the facts, with the commitment of this claim, with this finite mean by the oath. So an oath is a commitment, which I've already given closure to, but you're committed to the facts of a statement with the state of your mind, with the vessel, state, person. Now the difference between the mind and the vessel, state, person is the mind is basically the steward or the captain of the vessel, state, person. Get it? And we're conveying facts and we're certifying them, and we are a contract party because oath is a part of a contract, as is everything. Everything is contract. The next term I offer to you is volition. For the volition of this finite mean is with this claim of this knowledge, with this œTI, and with this performance by this author. Backwards, for this author of this performance and of this œTI is with this knowledge of this claim, with this finite mean by the volition. So œTI, ladies and gentlemen, is another word for use or usury. As you know, a vowel in front of a consonant at the beginning of a word is a particle of negation. It means no. So if you see anyone trying to write their version of correct sentence structure and you see a vowel in front of a consonant at the beginning of their word and it is incorrectly articulated, it's null and void. It's like putting a zero in a multiplication problem. That is why I salvaged the word œTI and I offer to you. I salvaged it years ago. It's an open salvage. You can use it if you want to. And it's very simple how I did it, folks. I just didn't pull it out of my butt. All right? I did my study. I did my research. I looked up the roots, the nativity root meanings of the word use and usury, and came to that word, oite. It was already in existence. The language masters just quit using it, is all. Well, I brought it back and salvaged it. And you can use it if you'd like. But that is what I mean by volition. And that word is used a lot in quantum grammar sectors. And finally, I offer you this word. For the vow of this finite mean is with the verbalization of an oath or of a covenant or of a commitment, with the clarification and with the certification of a claimant, with the volition by the claim. For the claim of the volition is with a claimant of the certification and of the clarification, with a commitment or with a covenant, with an oath of the verbalization, with this finite mean by the vow. So I've brought everything together in a nice little package for you, for this word vow, that you may use in place of resolution. It combines all the elements, and it requires that you speak it out loud, whatever your vow is. You have to speak it out loud. Doesn't matter if there's a witness there or not. I mean, you can have a witness there. That makes it actually more binding. Maybe it would make you more likely to keep your vow or not. I don't know. But the fact that you speak it out loud to the cosmos brings more potency to it, with my humble perception. Here are some suggestions for aims or goals of behavior that I actually brought forth from the Indians or Native Americans or First Nations. Now, originally, this was years and years ago. My tutor, Raven-Farhad-Tohidi-Afarin, and I got together and took what was then called the Native American Ten Commandments, and we translated them into correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar. Now, since then, I have gone over them and updated them, so to speak, into a more cognizable form by my humble perception as a 7+ year tutor of quantum grammar. And this is my gift to you. And by the way, you can get a PDF of this if you go to the community section on my YouTube channel. Go through the posts on there. I think it's the most recent one if you're watching this video in January of 2025. There's a link there to my Weebly website. And then there's a place there where you can join my email list. And if you do that, if you share your email address, which will remain confidential, no one else will see your email address, I will email you a PDF of this, my gift to you, as it is right now, my gift to you. So let's go over these real quick. For the 10 commitments of the First Nations. 1. For a claimant's knowledge of the navigation is with the location of the earth, with the performance of the Rule-1 and Rule-equal, with the covenant by a claimant, i.e., treat the earth and all that dwell therein with respect. Number 2, for the claim of the continuity is with the volition of the claimant with the close sensation by the life source and Great Spirit. Remain close to the Great Spirit. And that can be whatever for you. I want to maintain the integrity of the Native American Ten Commandments, but in the same sense, you could say, instead of Great Spirit or life source, you could say cosmos, whatever terminology makes you feel comfortable, whatever works for you. Number 3, for the performance claim of the Rule-1 and Rule-equal is with the treatment of any creatures with the volition by a claimant. Show great respect for your fellow beings. Not just human beings, your fellow beings, all other creatures and living entities upon this earth. Number 4, for the claim of the commitment is with the congruency of the claimant's navigation with any creatures of the earth, with the maintenance of the Rule 1 and Rule Equal, with the verification by the claimant's performance. Work together for the benefit of all humankind. Now, I know that's a tough one, and there are terms and conditions there, but I think, humbly speaking, that should be and is an honorable and graceful goal. Number 5, for the claim of a claimant's magnanimity and of the aid is with the direction of the performance with the terminal of any creatures with the commitment by a claimant. And that simply means give assistance and kindness wherever needed. As one of my favorite video game streamers, Omar Alaf, once said, if someone asks for help or needs something, give them what you can, because when you give with an open hand, that means your hand remains open to receive. But if you give like this, you can't get anything back. Number 6, for the claim of the performance is with the method of the correctness, with the knowledge by a claimant. Do what you know to be right, i.e. correct. Number 7, for the maintenance claim of the wholesomeness and of the gentleness is with the stewardship of the psyche and of the vessel, with the volition and with the commitment by a claimant, i.e. look after the well-being of your mind and your body. Number 8, for the claimant's performance of the direction claim is with the gain of the earth with the totality of the matter, with the volition and with the commitment by a claimant, meaning dedicate a share of your efforts to the greater good. Yes, we know everybody's got to look out for number 1, but give a little bit to the greater good. And number 9, for the balance claim of the honor and grace is with the navigation by a claimant, which is another way of saying be truthful and honest at all times. Now that, folks, is probably one of the most difficult ones, because the most dangerous individual to lie to is yourself. And I don't care who you are, you're guilty of it. Keep that in mind. That's not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing if you don't notice it and don't take steps to correct it, make efforts towards not doing that anymore. And then once you can do that, everything else falls into place, and the way you deal with other contract parties will become easy peasy lemon squeezy. And finally, number 10, for the claim of the navigations and of the performances is with the full accountability by a claimant, which simply means take full responsibility, accountability for your actions. Try not to be one of these victims that, oh, everything bad always happens to me. Oh, why are these bad things always happening? If this person wouldn't have done this, then this wouldn't have happened. Why'd this person screw me over? It's their fault I'm in this position. No. If someone screws you over, it's your fault. Take accountability. Make better choices. Look closer at things. Don't half-ass it. Easy, right? So there's your 10 commitments of the First Nations. Little bonus PARSE for you in this video for 2025. I'm packing in as much data as I can, enough knowledge so that it's brimming over with knowledge for you. Keep in mind though, you can gain knowledge, but you must also have cognition of that knowledge. Someone who knows terms and can memorize meanings of those terms doesn't mean shit if you don't know how to put those into practice, if you don't understand them and pick them apart piece by piece. Okay, so I recently found out that Christopher Columbus the historical figure known as Christopher Columbus, I found out why he named the Indians in his journals, in his diaries. I used to think that because, according to history, which is just a story, which cannot be possibly certified, that Columbus named the Indians because he thought he had landed in India mistakenly, and so he called them Indians, the natives Indians. But according to a new story that I've seen, but it's not new, but it was new to me, in his actual diaries, he called them El Dio, or Indio, which would mean, in this context, the people of God. Dio, Dios, meaning God. We're talking Latin here. So he called them that because they seemed to be so happy and carefree. And he was giving them a compliment. That's why he called them Indians. Because even then, folks, back then, in 1492, I don't think India even existed. Like the name India for that country was not called India. It was something else. So that word was brought forth allegedly by the historical character known as Christopher Columbus. I'm choosing my words very carefully here. He thought that they were the people of God, that they were so happy and carefree, so much so that allegedly, historically, because of him, they were enslaved, conquered, subjugated, and now you see the results of that in modern day society on the RE, particle of negation, reservations. Little extra tidbit for you. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this third section, three-part series, or if you're watching the long form, I'm glad you made it through the long form. Stay tuned here for information on how you can take correct sentence structure, communication, PARSE, syntax, grammar workshops from yours truly. Much gratitude.